2024 Organizational Behavior. Question 1 is a case study, which reads as follows. The case study focuses on Company X, which is a multinational technology firm recently underwent major organizational change, transitioning from traditional on-premises software model to cloud-based software as a service SaaS platform. So this shift required significant internal restructuring, changes in the business process, new acquisition of employees, and new customer engagement strategy. The CEO of this company played a critical role in crafting communication, the vision of transformation. A clear, compelling vision helped employees understand the reason for the change and how it aligned with the company's long-term goals. The CEO highlighted the growing market demand for cloud solutions and explained how the transition could make the company more competitive in the digital age. As major organizational change, there was some resistance from some employees, particularly those comfortable with the old systems and practices. The leadership addressed the resistance by focusing on creating a sense of agency and demonstrating short-term wins to maintain momentum. Managers were trained to have a one-on-one conversation with resident employees, providing support and explaining how the changes will benefit them personally and professionally. The leadership strategic approach resulted in successful transition from an X 30% increase in operational efficiency and higher customer satisfaction, and a stronger competitive position in the market. Importantly, employee turnover was lower than expected during the change, thanks to supportive leadership and investment training required. Part 1, discuss the role of leadership in managing organization change, drawing on a change management model you're familiar with. Use examples to illustrate how leaders overcame the resistance to change and ensure successful implementation. Number 2, based on the case study, X transition to a cloud-based platform, analyze how leadership facilitated the change process, identify the specific leadership actions that contributed to the successful change, and discuss how these actions align with the change management theories. So we'll start with the first part. We'll look at the role that leadership plays whenever there is organizational change. Okay, so we must understand an important theme. Number 1, that whenever there is change, there is always some resistance. So whenever there is change, there's some resistance. So now we want to identify some of the leadership, the role that leadership played in managing change on any, and we look at any change model. So we know leadership is very important to the success of any organization because it involves you influencing people, providing direction, and also ensuring that a transition that has been done is aligned with the strategic goals. So one of the widely recognized models that we're going to look at is Kotta's 8-step change model, which will give us a practical framework for implementing change. Okay, so let's get to discussing these 8 steps. Number 1, what is the first step in this change model? Okay, to create a sense of agency. So leaders should be able to communicate the need for the change effectively. So in the case of Company X, the CEO had highlighted the market demand and the competitive advantage of the transition to SaaS. So here he created agency. So one of the 8 steps is number 1, you create a sense of agency. Secondly, you need to build a guiding collision. So by this, we mean that effective leaders must build alliances across different departments. So managers are trained to support change and to influence others, forming a coalition. Okay, so that's the second step that is involved there. Are we following? So
Yes.
the third step that is involved, the eight-step method is developing a vision and strategy. Developing a vision and strategy. So in this step, you need to have a clear, compelling vision that will align with the efforts of guiding decision making. So this company X articulated the vision of becoming a leader in providing uh, cloud-based solutions in the industry. So this strategy uh, involved investing in SaaS structure and upscaling employees and also redefining the customer engagement model. So the vision was made simple, the vision was made inspiring, and the vision was actionable, giving everyone a sense of direction. Then the fourth step is to communicate the vision, communicating the vision. So by communicating the vision, the ongoing communication was key. The ongoing communication was key. So then is need for continuous, transparent communication, which is vital for building trust and gaining a buy-in. So company X's leadership actually leverage on multiple communication channels. Okay, you could have used question and answer forums, departmental briefings to keep employees informed. So the leaders here actually held one-on-one meetings with a staff. Of course, there was some resistance. Okay, so communicating the vision. So number five step is empowering employees with vision-based action. Five, empowering employees with vision-based action. So what is involved in here? It involved basically is we know there are obstacles that come to change, whether it is structural, whether it's procedural or emotional. These must be removed. So at this company, there was some resistance that was reduced through targeting training programs or mentoring and also having a support system. So the managers encouraged innovation and gave teams an autonomy to redesign the workflow to be compatible with SaaS. So employees who were left overwhelmed were offered some support in their enabling them to participate effectively. Then number six, we are part of the eight-step model is to generate short-term wins, generating short-term wins. So in this case, generating short-term wins, um, the short-term success were highlighted to maintain morale and reinforce commitment. So company X used these to show progress and value. So in this context, um, celebrating early success usually sustains the momentum. It validates the transformation effort. So Company X were told launched pilot projects within a specific product team. They restructured, which results in having measurable improvements in customer satisfaction. Then number seven, you need to consolidate gains and produce more change. Consolidate gains and produce more consolidate gains and produce more change. So leadership reinforced initial capital gains and built on momentum to be embedded in the new process. And lastly, anchor new approaches in the culture. So by aligning training rewards systems with the new practices, company X had anchored a change on its culture. So these are based on the um, framework by Kota on change model. Okay, change model. So regardless of the case study that you have, you need to understand that these are the unified steps that are involved. Okay, let's go through them quickly. What are the eight steps that are involved in the quarters model? Number one, what did we say?
Creating a sense of urgency.
Okay, creating a sense of agency. What is involved in creating there? And number two,
Number two, we talked about developing a vision and a strategy.
Number one, creating a sense of agency. We need to initiate change. So people must feel um, part of the change. You must feel that it's necessary. So you must highlight the threats and opportunities that could be there. You must present real data and scenarios that will justify why you are making that change. Okay, the goal is to motivate people to move out of their comfort zones. The second stage, you said you need to build a what? A guide
Ecosystem.
collusion. So change is not only driven by one person. So you need to form strong teams that are influential across different departments. Those who may be committed to change. So they could be leaders, they could be respected employees. So ensure that you have a diversity of ring leaders, in short. What was the third step?
Develop a vision and a strategy.
Yes, form a strong vision. Initiative. Then number four,
Communicate the vision.
yes, communicate the vision change. So by forming vision and initiatives, you need to define what the future looks like after the change has been done. So once you entice them, create a clear vision that aligns with the organization's values. So you need to develop initiatives and action plans. So you need to ensure that the vision is concise, easy to understand. So the goal here is to provide what? Direction and purpose. In the first step, we said you need to communicate the change vision. So you need to have frequent, transparent communication. You need to share the vision on multiple platforms, whether through meetings, newsletters. You need to be consistent and honest in the way you are messaging them. So you need to address disconsent. You need to check to see whether feedback is there or there any doubts. Okay, number 5 and 6, what did we say?
Empowering employees and removing obstacles.
And number 6,
Number 6 was, I think, short-term wins.
exactly. Great. So number 5, we said empower employees or a broad-based action. So you need to remove obstacles. So you enable people to take action. So identify and eliminate any barriers, outdated processes, any resistant individuals eliminate, and provide trainings and resources and give authority for them to act on the vision. So encourage the risk-taking aspect and innovation. So here the goal is basically to encourage what? And initiate and remove resistance to change. Then 6, you create short-term wins. So you need to celebrate the small victories in the early processes so that you show people, okay, see how it's happening. Okay, so you need to set achievable short-term goals so that they align with the vision's change. So recognize and reward the contributors and publicize the wins so that you build what credibility and motivate others. So this is to show that this change that we're having is what progressive. Okay, then finally 7 and 8, what did we say?
Leading by example.
And the last one.
I didn't get the last one.
Okay, so they said you need to sustain acceleration and institute change. So sustain accelerating is also leading by example. So you need to build the momentum from the early win to drive more. So you need to analyze what has worked and what needs improvement. So you need to set new targets. So you keep looking for improvement opportunities. So maintain a sense of agency and avoid what? Complacency. So you need to ensure that the efforts will continue to gain strength. Then lastly, you need to anchor into institute change. So you anchor the new behaviors on the organization's culture. You need to highlight the connections between the new behaviors and the organization's success. So you ensure that leadership will support what? Will support the change and incorporate the changes into the policies and training and succession planning. So the goal here is to make the change stick by embedding it in the culture. So you're creating a culture based on what new developments you've made. All right. So that is 15 marks. So, okay. Um, but B, based on the company's transition to cloud, analyze how leadership facilitated the change and identified the specific leadership actions that contributed to a successful change and address how these actions align with change management. Mhm. So, how, based on our case study, let's analyze how leadership facilitated the change process. How did they facilitate the change process? So quickly, um,
Um,
the leadership, they followed some elements of the 8-step process of Kota. So what they do, number one, they did what? They crafted and communicated the vision. So the CEO had articulated the need for cloud transformations, which aligns with the market trends. So this clarity reduced the confusion. Secondly, they created a sense of urgency. So leaders emphasize on the importance of us moving quickly to avoid losing the market share. So this increased readiness for supporting and training. So the managers here were trained to conduct a one-on-one session, remember? So this helped the employees understand the personal benefits. Okay. So in short, we are identifying the actual aspects that they did that conform to the eight-step model. So they demonstrated the short wins. So they highlighted the personal improvements and customer satisfaction and reassured employees and kept a high morale. Okay. Then low employee turnover. So the leadership's proactive approach had minimized what? The fear and uncertainty. So it helped retain the staff during the transformation. So these are what happens. So this is in alignment with the what? With the change theories. So the two key theories that um, propagate change, which are the Kotter's model and the Lewin's change model. So according to Kotter's model, as the company did, so Command X followed many of these steps. So even Lewin's change model, the leadership um, upfroze the old mindset and transitioned employees through the support of communication. They refroze the new SaaS culture through the sustained results. Okay, so
Sorry, which is the Lewin's change model? Is it the one for, is it you unfreeze? What was that? I think I don't remember it properly, but is it the one for you where you unfreeze and then you later on refreeze, like after everything has
mm,
settled?
yeah, you unfreeze, change, then refreeze. Yes, so
Okay.
that is Lewin's three-step model. So let's just go through it briefly as well, just so that I don't leave it in the yeah. So the Lewin's three-step model was proposed to look at the three-step processes and freeze, change, and refreeze. So this is a simple yet more powerful model that looks at the importance of preparing for change and implementing it, then solidifying it. So the unfreeze is the first stage in preparing the organization to accept the change. That change is necessary. So the key actions here is that you need to challenge the status quo, help people to see the need for the change by showing them how the current way of doing things is not effective. Then you need to create awareness. So you need to use data, feedback, and the market analysis to demonstrate why this change is crucial. Then you need to address the resistance. So you need to understand and address the fears and anxieties. Also need to build motivation, meaning to create agency and encourage stakeholders at all levels. So the goal here is to make people willing to let go of the old behavior. So this is what is involved in the unfreeze. The second part is what? The change. The change is actually the transition. So what happens in this change phase? This is a phase where the actual um, changes take place. So it involves you introducing new behaviors and processes and systems. So in this, the key aspects are to communicate clearly. So you need to explain what is changing and why. You need to also explain why it will benefit the individuals of the organization. So you need to provide support. You need to offer training, mentorship, uh, resources to help employees adapt. Then you need to encourage involvement. You need to let the employees contribute to shaping change, what increases ownership. Then you need to be patient, understand that this stage can be emotional and operationally difficult. So the goal here is that transition from the old to the new in a structured and supportive manner will be key. And lastly, the refreeze. What is involved in the refreeze? In the refreeze, what is involved? This is the final stage of stabilizing. Okay, so this is a stage of stabilizing the organization after the change has been implemented. So the actions here are to reinforce new behaviors, to integrate the changes into the company policies. So celebrate the successes. You need to acknowledge and reward people who adapt and succeed under the new system. So you need to also ensure there's consistency. You monitor progress and make the adjustments to keep the new state effective. You also need to evaluate the document and learn from the change process for future improvement. And you need to make new changes part of the organization's normal operations by preventing a return to the old habit. So let's summarize them. What did we say? The first step is what? First step
Unfreezing.
we said, unfreeze. The focus is where? To prepare a mind for change. So here you are, the goal is to motivate people to accept that change is needed. The second one is what? The change. The focus to execute a change. The goal here is to ensure that transition to new behaviors or processes is done. Then refreeze, you need to reinforce and stabilize change. The focus is having embedded the change in the structure and the systems. Are we together?
Yes.
Right. So that's how we are done with question number one. Question number two, we'll look at the relationship between organization culture and team development. So organization culture is a reflection of ethics and morals that a company has. It naturally guides paths to be followed. Another important aspect is the presence of the solid presence of development of human capital, as it is a moral and ethical alignment. So culture demonstrates to employees that a company's expectations are and what is its way of acting without um, underestimating individual characteristics and respecting each one's position. So the presence of this structure also establishes an environment that promotes healthy competition, supporting personal goals while seeking to achieve the company's needs. Part A, discuss how closely a team can feel the effect of organization culture. Then what is your understanding of the main elements of the Johnson's and Scholes cultural web, and how do these influence the culture in an organization? So let's look at part A, how closely is a team, discuss how closely a team can feel the effect of organization culture. 10 marks. Mhm. How can a team feel the effect of organization culture? So organization culture is greatly used to study how it influences team dynamics, the behavior and performance. So it acts as an invisible hand that shapes expectations and styles. So there are several ways in which a team can feel the effect of organization culture. Okay. Number one, through shared values, through psychological safety, collaboration, motivation, conflict resolution, and healthy competition. So let's look at these ones in depth. Okay, so number one, how yes. So we're discussing how um, closely a team can feel the effect of organization culture. So organization culture basically looks at what? The shared values, the beliefs, the norms and practices that shape the behavior of people within an organization. So a team can feel the impact of culture in many ways. Okay, and these ways will influence everything from motivation, from communication style, and job satisfaction. So let's look at um, the element of communication skills and decision making. How do they affect an organization? So we look at communication and openness. So organization culture will set a tone for how communication flows in an organization. So in a culture that values openness and transparency, the team are more likely to share what? ideas and offer feedback. All right. Conversely, if there's a rigid structure, communication may only be top down, so it will limit the interaction and creativity. Number two, in terms of decision making and autonomy. So teams and cultures that provide empowerment and trust often experience what? Greater autonomy in decision making. They feel valued and responsible for outcomes. In contrast, if you're using an authoritarian culture, teams feel micromanaged, and this may hinder the confidence and initiative. Okay, thirdly, team dynamics and morale. So culture will influence how team members interact. So where there's a supportive and inclusive culture, teams will often exhibit higher morale and stronger cohesion and mutual respect. But if the culture tolerates favoritism, what happens? There'll be discrimination and toxic behaviors. Okay, what else? We can talk about attitude towards risk-taking, conflict resolution, and recognizing motivation. So all these can say something about how um, closely a team can feel the effect of organization culture. So, in terms of attitude towards innovation and risk taking, and where there are cultures that reward innovation and learning, teams are more willing to take calculated risks. So, they'll try new approaches and they'll learn from their failures. So, if the culture punishes mistakes, the teams will feel discouraged. In terms of conflict resolution, a culture that guides how conflict are handled, how people should dialogue. It will motivate conflicts to be resolved constructively. But where there is a passive confrontational culture, where things are left unresolved and tensions may affect teamwork. In terms of recognition and motivation, so teams are greatly affected by how the culture promotes recognition and reward. So a culture that regularly appreciates contributions will boost motivation and loyalty. If there's lack of acknowledgement and unfair recognition, practices can demoralize teams and reduce what? Engagement. Are we together?
Yes.
Okay. Then we go to part B. Um, what is your understanding of the main elements of the Johnson and Scholes cultural web, and how do these influence culture and organization? Uh-huh. So, what is your understanding? You've heard about the cultural web by Jones and Scholars, which is part of the what is called the Whittington framework, the cultural web. So, this is usually the tool that we use when you're analyzing and understanding organization culture. It has six interrelated elements. Do you remember them? What are they? These six interrelated elements. They form what is called the web or, or the paradigm. What are they?
I think I remember something to do with power,
Power structures, yes.
control systems,
Control systems.
and stories.
Yes, good. And stories, yes. Uh-huh.
I think those are the ones I remember. And symbols.
Yes. You actually remember everything. And symbols. Uh-huh. What else?
Oh, I've listed everything.
They're all correct.
Okay.
The six, uh-huh. They're all correct.
Power structures,
Mm-hmm.
control systems,
Mm-hmm.
symbols, stories,
Mm-hmm.
routines,
Mm-hmm.
and
Routines, correct. You can make a formula so that you remember. Okay?
okay. Routines and rituals.
Uh-huh.
And I think I've forgotten the last one.
Okay. They're here. So those are the ones you've gotten all of them. So the the cultural web has those elements. So stories, these are the shared narratives about significant events of the organization's past. So they include the successes, the failures, the heroic figures. So these stories will communicate what is considered important, who is respected, and what behavior is valued. So they influence culture by reinforcing what? The expected behaviors and highlighting the role models that others are encouraged to follow. And we go to symbols, we're basically looking at what? Logos, dress codes, office layouts, job titles, language that is used within the organization. So these visual signs will actually reflect a deeper cultural value. For instance, an open office plan will symbolize what? Transparency, whilst a formal dress will symbolize what? Professionalism, like the lawyers, and conservatism. Symbols will signal what? Employees and outsiders what kind of behavior and mindset is expected. People in the bank is where they would dress. When we go to power structures, they refer to people or groups who hold the most influential um, influence in an organization. So these can be senior leaders, founders, key departments. So they have a strong influence on an organization's priorities and decision making. So the behaviors, the values of these powerful individuals or groups tend to set tone for the rest of the organization. So we also have organization structures, which refers to the roles and responsibilities, the authority distributed in the organization. So structures could be flat, tall, and we could have what? Different kind of structure. So a flat structure may promote what? Collaboration and innovation, whereas a tall structure is that of a hierarchy. It may encourage control and formality. So the structures actually affect how decisions are made and how information flows. So this will influence how people will interact. Then control systems basically look at the mechanisms through which performance is monitored or measured, like performance appraisal, the budgets, the reward systems. So they tell employees what is important. For instance, if innovation is rewarded, employees are likely to take initiative. But if only financial results are measured, employees will focus on profit, neglecting customer satisfaction. The other has to do with rituals and routines. So these are regular activities, okay? Meetings, ceremonies, traditions within an organization. So these ones affect or reinforce what is considered normal or acceptable. For instance, regular team meetings can promote openness and collaboration, whilst long-standing routines can create what? Resistance to change, and these two are rigid. Then lastly, but not the least, the core, the paradigm. So at the center of the web is the paradigm, okay, which represents shared assumptions and beliefs that define how we do things here. So the foundation is upon all other elements. So the paradigm shapes the organization's identity and dictates the behavior and decision making. So overall, these are the elements that work together. They are cohesive, they form organizational culture, so they influence how employees perceive their roles and interact with each other. They respond to change and align with the organization's goals. So understanding this culture will help leaders identify areas of cultural strength and areas that need change to align with the culture and objectives. So is that clear?
Yes, they are.
All right. So we we proceed. Question number 3. Question number 3. So what role does motivation play in managing organizations? So motivation is defined as the driving force behind your actions. It is often associated with why you want to do something. It is intertwined with your goals, feelings, dreams, and hopes. Motivation at work can drive employees at an organization to meet their individual goals. So the concept can either be classified into 3 sub-components: motivators, motive, actual act of motivation. So the motive initiates an action or certain behavior for fulfillment of a specific goal, and this directly corresponds to the desire of an individual. So motivators are tools used for motivating employees, such as promotions, pay bonuses. So the act of motivation is the actual process of completing the task, which usually depends on the motives and motivators. So as a manager of your organization, which motivation theories would you use to motivate your subordinates? Yeah, justify your answer. then use a diagram to discuss the application of the expectancy theory in an organization. So part A, the theories, what would you use to motivate your employees? Looking at this part. Listening.
I think I don't know this one.
There are many motivation theories. Okay, okay. Any three motivation theories you can use is Maslow's hierarchy of needs. There's Herzberg two-factor theory. You don't remember these ones, and the justification for using these ones. You've forgotten these ones in Okay, so you can use Maslow's hierarchy of needs because this theory suggests that people have what? Five basic needs: psychological, safety, esteem, and self-actualization. So employees must satisfy the lower needs before going to the higher ones. So why is it relevant? Because they help what? It will help identify what level of needs employees are at and will provide a roadmap for motivating them at various stages. So you need to ensure that the basic needs are met first, like job security, before you reach to career growth. The second one you can use is what? Herzberg two-factor theorem. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So Herzberg two-factor theorem looks at factors that affect motivation, like the hygiene factors and motivators. So hygiene factors start from salaries, okay? The motivators look at recognition, responsibilities, and personal growth. So hygiene factors will actually prevent dissatisfaction, whereas motivators will increase satisfaction. So it's relevant for organization because the hygiene factors are like fair pay and good work environment. In this case, they will give employees that level of satisfaction. So they recognize employees' achievements and offer growth opportunities and will foster engagement. Then we look at Vroom's expectancy. So this theory suggests that employees are based on what? Expected outcome. So it's driven by three components: expectancy, instrumentality, and valence, which is a value placed on rewards. So it's relevant because it ensures that employees know their efforts that will lead to reward. Okay, so in this theory assess that increase in motivation and effort will align with performance-based incentives. So we end here for now. End here for now. So thank you so much for your time.
Thank you as well.
Okay, should you need more time, you'll tell me if we're going to have another.